Okay, problem 4. Use a chain rule. For example, in part A, so z is a function of x and y. Okay, and x is a function of s and t. Y is also a function of s and t. Right, so it's easy to realize that z is also a function of s and t, right, if you just do the substitution. Right, z is also a function of s and t. Okay, so that's why you can get what's the partial derivative of z by s, what's the partial derivative of z by t. Okay, so naturally what would you do? You would just do the substitution, right? You just do the substitution first and then get the partial derivative. But here we have something called chain rule, which can help us. Okay, because z is a function of x, z is a function of y, and x is a function of s, y is also a function of s. So dz over ds, based on the chain rule, right, it can be written in this way. Okay, so we don't have to do the substitution first, then get the partial derivative. We can directly get all the partial derivatives. Okay, for example, what is d0 over dx? You just differentiate this by x, you get 2xy cubed. Okay, what about dx over ds? You just differentiate this by s, you get, sorry, it's not plus, right? It's times cosine t. Okay, what about this part? dz over dy, you differentiate this by y, you get 3x squared y squared, right? And dy over ds, you just differentiate this by s, you get sine t. Okay, you get sine t. So, similarly, what is dz over dt? It is dz over dx times dx over dt, right? Plus dz over dy times dy over dt. All right, what is dz over dx? It is 2xy cubed. Right, it's the same. What is dx over dt? So you just differentiate this by t, right? You get s cosine t, the derivative is negative sine t. Okay. What is dz over dy? Just copy. Right, it's the same. What is dy over dt? You just differentiate this by t, you get s cosine t. Right, you get s cosine t. So that would be the partial derivatives. Okay, so chain rule is actually a very useful and powerful tool to get the partial derivatives without the substitution. So for example, part B, z is sine cosine, right? Sine x cosine y. Okay, your x is st squared, your y is s squared t. Okay, so for example, what is dz over ds? It's dz over dx times dx over ds plus dz over dy times dy over ds. Okay, what is dz over dx? Differentiate this by x. Sine x, you get the derivative cosine x, cosine y. And what is dx over ds? Differentiate this by s, you get t squared. Okay. What about dz over dy? You differentiate this by y, so you get sine x negative sine y. Okay. What about dy over ds? So dy over dx, you get 2st. Okay. You get 2st. So similarly, what is dz over dt? Right, it's dz over dx times dx over dt plus dz over dy times dy over dt. Okay, what is dz over dx? Just copy. And what is dx over dt? So differentiate this by t, right? So you get 2st. And what is dz over dy? Just copy. It is negative sine x sine y. And what is dy over dt. What is dy over dt? It's s squared. Okay, it's s squared. Okay, so let's do the last question. So part C, z is e to the power of x cosine y. Okay, x is st, and y is square root of s squared plus t squared. Okay, so similarly, z is a function of, essentially it's a function of s and t, right? So what is dz over ds? It's dz over dx times dx over ds plus dz over dy times dy over ds. Okay, dz over dx is just e to the power of x cosine y, because if you differentiate it by x, it's just itself. Dx over ds is just t, right? You differentiate this by s. And dz over dy, you differentiate it by y, you get e to the power of x times negative sine y. And what about dy over ds? Right, dy over ds, it's going to be the chain rule. So first it's half square root of s squared plus t squared, and then dy over ds, right, times 2s. So that is just, so that's the chain rule. Okay, so as a chain rule, you can further simplify it. Okay, and what about dz over dt? It's very, very similar. It's dz over dx times dx over dt, right, plus dz over dy times dy over dt. So dz over dx just copy, and dx over dt, right? Dx over dt is just s, and dz over dy just copy, right? dz over dy just copy, and dy over dt, right? It's just 1 over 2 square root of s squared plus t squared, okay, times 2t. Okay, again, you can further simplify it. All right.